So I'm going to go ahead, hit record. Melissa, RIP Slack, but we're doing big things and connecting in a big way on Circle. So hey everyone, welcome to our community call. And now we're going to get started into today's discussion. Although you can take the No New Clothes Challenge any time of the year, today we're kicking off a community-wide remake summer of participation from now through August. Over the course of the next 3 months, the challenge takers will be encouraged to pause their purchases of new clothing and embrace secondhand shopping, upcycling, mending, clothing swaps, things like that. I just had a group of my friends yesterday in the park. It was so nice here. We just got together and we're doing a little clothing swap, just very impromptu as people were walking by. It was fun. And the purpose of this challenge is to consider the values that we want to wear and the role that we can play in addressing overconsumption to change the fashion industry. This is our 5th year of No New Clothes. The campaign was launched by Remake in 2020 as a response to fast fashion's environmental and social impacts. Our goal this summer specifically is to get 5,000 new challenge takers for our 5-year anniversary and raise $5,000 through community-led actions. This could look like any way of like fundraising with a clothing swap or any type of like mending workshop. You can always feel free to reach out to me if you have any ideas or want support on how to make a community-led action. We are super thrilled to have a powerful lineup of change makers today on our panel who are helping redefine fashion with purpose, psychology, and creativity at the core. Joining us today, we have Alysia Reiner, actress and activist. We have Dr. Dion Terrelonge, who is a chartered psychologist specializing in fashion psychology, exploring the emotional and psychological aspects of clothing and consumer behavior. And we have, I wrote down, we have Kemi Orashid. I'm sorry, Kemi.
No, it's okay. My name is really long. I'm Kemi Jaffa.
Thank you. Kemi is the special projects manager at B-Lab US and Canada and founder of Sola Market, whose mission is to make art and a creative life more accessible, sustainable, and equitable by building a circular secondhand marketplace for all means of art production. So in this conversation today, we're going to be diving into the impact of fast fashion, the role of personal choices, and how campaigns like No New Clothes challenge us to rethink our relationship with what we wear. So everyone on the call today, we encourage you to engage with the panelists throughout the discussion. Drop your questions in the chat. We'll do a Q&A at the end. And thank you for joining us today. So let's get started. I want to start with all of the panelists. If you could each answer this question that I have for you, just with your personal journeys. For each of you, was there a particular moment or story that sparked your shift towards conscious consumption? How has your personal experience been influenced with your lifestyle? Kemi, if you want to kick it off.
Yeah, of course. Hi, y'all. I'm super excited to be on this call today. And it was actually a nice little break. I'm getting ready for exhibition here in New York City with the New Museum. So you guys should check it out. It's at 180 Maiden Lane in Fidei. And I could talk more about that later. But to answer the question, I think the point in which conscious consumption became like a big part of my life as like a creative, but someone who, yeah, loves to dress up, loves to put it on, as they say, is it really started when I was younger, being that I'm first generation American, my family's West African. And with that being said, I realized from a really young age that clothing is memory, that growing up in the United States, in order to remember where my family comes from, our roots, our aesthetics, it would be through clothing. That was like the easiest sort of like portal to like sort of take that story into the world. And with that being said, our traditional garments, and elements, they became like everyday heirlooms. So things that I needed to like take care of, things that I needed to keep clean, things that I also needed to refurbish. And also sort of like what my mother's and my father's as well, like I dress across the gender spectrum, would pass down onto me or pass on to me. So I think conscious consumption kind of went hand in hand with like legacy and memory and like sort of maintaining those cultural artifacts. And then as I, came into my career and moved more into social impact and more specifically sustainability, it turned into like the responsibility that I have to my environment and also to these systems and economies and industries and the people who make it and the people who make these clothings. Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you, Kemi. Alysia, I'd love for you to respond next. Through your personal journey, what was your maybe like story or aha moment towards conscious consumption?
Sure. I grew up, my grandmother was my deep inspiration, and she took me to the piggy bank, which was this thrift store near her. And we would find these treasures. It was treasure hunting. It was never a bad thing. It was always an amazing thing. And she saved her mother's stuff, my great aunt's stuff. Like I've always had all this familial clothes, similar to Kemi. It's like it was in the family. And so it's interesting because for me, I guess it was about reclaiming that, because I remember being in high school, or like, yeah, I guess early, like middle school, high school, and being teased a lot because, oh my God, I'm gonna cry. Like I wasn't wearing the cool shit, like I didn't fit in. Like I never fit in. And um and that hurt. Like it hurt. So for me, when I think about like fashion and like brands, it's kind of the weaponization of people against each other. It's like I'm wearing Ralph, like back in the day, it was Ralph Lauren. Like I'm wearing Ralph Lauren, and if you're not the cool girl. And that was just so wrong to me and so mean. And I've never talked about it like this. Like I didn't even realize I felt this way till this second. So there's a little aha moment. It was the weaponization of fashion, like as a way to divide people instead of bring them together. And that just felt just wrong. And I sort of always stayed true to my roots of loving treasure hunting and finding treasures in my family's closet, and like sharing things among friends, and making things. I have a 16-year-old, and she loves her sewing machine, and she loves making things, and she still loves my grandma's closet. My grandma is no longer with us, but every time we go up there, she turns to my grandpa, and she's like, who's 102 now, and she says, can I go up to grandma's closet? And he's like, of course. And she finds something new every time because she keeps on changing and evolving, and we keep on evolving. And then our fashion evolves. And so for me, not buying new is how I love on our community, how I love on our planet. And for me, it's about love. Like it's not about taking away from, or um, it's not about deprivation. It's about pleasure. Like to me, I think of it as a pleasure of finding a fashion find. I was sharing with these guys, this jumpsuit that I'm wearing is I found at an amazing tiny thrift store at the last place I worked. And I love whenever I go to a new country or go to a new city. I was at a new city with a film festival this weekend, and we didn't have we didn't have the right clothes, and I found like this amazing jacket for $6. And so it's about creating memory. It's about slowing down. It's about as Remake talks about so much, appreciating the humans who make your clothes. My grandma would always turn over whatever she was wearing and show me the stitch work and show me the treasures of the humans who made them and how hard they had to work, which then for me, I'm like, fast fashion is gross. Like that's some, it's not appreciating the humans who are making the thing. So that's a little bit about my history with it that I uncovered in this moment that I didn't even know. So thanks for asking.
Thank you for sharing with us. So beautiful. And I agree with what both Kemi and you, Alysia, are saying. And I just want future generations to say, I'm going to my grandma Holly's workshop to like stitch a button on this shirt that fell off. So like things like no new clothes where you're teaching skills and they could be forgotten. We don't want to lose the days where people say my grandmother taught me, and have that connection. Dion, I'd love for you to respond the same for you. Was there a particular moment or story that shifted your conscious consumption habits?
It's just interesting listening to everyone speak, and it's interesting how many, like both of you, made these connections like family and childhood. And that's always the way whenever I speak to people about fashion, about how they came on this journey. And mine is quite cyclical as well, in so much as that for me, thinking about things and being a conscious consumer initially was not a choice. It was necessity in life, because growing up with not much money, you have to be a conscious consumer because you can't afford to buy cheap, poorly made clothes because it has to last you a long time. So I think for me, growing up, I really learned the value of clothing. We shopped in charity shops, but my mum sewed, my nan sewed. So when you went to the charity shops, she'd show me, we check the labels, see what's the composition of the garment. We'd be checking the hems, making sure it's sewn properly, making sure that it was kind of like made well, so then it would last us. So I learned what quality clothing looked like. And then I think maybe as I got in my late teens, early 20s, started to get my first job, forgot about that a little bit. And then I noticed when this ultra fast fashion came around that the quality of clothing just dropped. And I think I was aware of that. And I don't really like being swindled. So I was thinking to myself, why does this like dress or this pair of jeans cost the same amount as they used to? But now it's purely made of plastic because I'm so used to looking, I can feel the quality and I don't like that. So for me, there was an element of kind of going back to my roots as a conscious consumer from youth because of how I grew up and kind of reconnecting to that. But then I think Alysia touched on something there, Alysia touched on something there, which reminded me of, so my friend Sophie Benson, who's a journalist, I think there was a moment quite a few years back where she had said something during a talk that's really stuck with me, that made me not just kind of say, I don't like being swindled or, I really like quality clothing, but to really think about the human impact of the clothing. And that was when she showed the supply chain and she showed literally how many different hands would have touched one item of clothing before it got to you. And then when I thought about all of those hands and all of those lives and all those people and the time and the effort they put into every garment for it to then get to me and be made of plastic or to be costing over here like £5, I just thought it feels like it's really devaluing the human contribution. And then, and as a psychologist, that didn't sit right with me either. So on every front, it was just no, 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 no. So then I think I actively became, and very deliberately and explicitly, kind of like anti overconsumption and much more trying to support people to be more sustainable and understand the tricks that are used by fast fashion companies to keep you buying more, because it's all very deliberate.
Yeah, I'm very much looking forward to looking into that piece, and everyone on the call too, I'm sure, is excited to talk more about that piece with you. Thank you for sharing. I love hearing your backgrounds and experiences towards conscious consumption and where it has led you in your lives. So I would love to dive in further and explore what drives your work specifically. To Alysia, you have loved working as a change maker for women, as an advocate for women's rights and climate change initiatives, along with being an active volunteer firefighter. You're a foster mother. You sing in the Revival Resistance Chorus. You are on the board of Earth Day Initiative, Fossil Fuel Treaty. The list goes on, and Plastic Pollution Coalition. So being a part of these social justice movements, I would love for your perspective to answer how do you see the intersection of ethical fashion within these broader environmental and social justice movements?
Oh my goodness, such a good question. And I could, we could have that conversation for hours, let's be honest. So what is the good short version that's useful to talk about in this moment? I would say right before this, I was on a call with Project Dandelion, which if you guys don't know, please look us up. I'm an ambassador there, and it's a women-led climate justice movement. And we're all about how do we get all movements under one umbrella, basically. How do we galvanize all of our collective power as women? And how do we sort of slow things down and go back to the outrageously wise traditions of the women way before me, and majoritively non-white women? So I think my one answer in my 2 minutes would be, guys, check out Project Dandelion. Please join us. To me, it's really about how do we come together in this moment. The most important thing I think we can do in this moment about anything is come together, find the places that we agree, find the places that we want to love on each other. That is my biggest thing. Fashion is a great place we can connect. Even if you may disagree about politics, a lot of times you can agree on, like, oh, let's have a swap together, you know? Um, and maybe I feel like food and fashion are these two places where we can find love with one another, and then maybe touch upon the things where we're having challenges with each other as we have this point of connection. So yeah, that's what I would start with.
Absolutely, power in numbers, and this community knows that well. And we come from all different aspects of industry. Like, I specifically come from fashion, but we have people in our community coming from the environmental space, the climate space, with just an interest in, where are my clothes coming from? So that is, exactly how we feel as well. Thank you for that response. Next to Dion, you work to help companies and individuals understand the psychological link between what we wear and how we feel, to understand the traps and lures of consumerism, as you mentioned just a minute ago, and its impact on people and the planet from a psychological perspective. So I would love for you to talk more to our call today about what psychological factors contribute to the appeal of fast fashion, and how can campaigns like No New Clothes address these issues?
It's a big question. Thanks. There's so many things that contribute because they do their research, these companies. They do their research to make sure that their website, their brand, their advertising are as addictive as possible. So I guess a few basic psychological factors that might be at play. The first thing is the kind of generation that we live in at the moment, which is a generation of immediacy and instant gratification. And delayed gratification and patience is a cognitive skill that's learned when you're little. You're told, remember the marshmallow test? Does everyone remember that? Like, it's a famous psychological study. Yeah, Alysia knows it, where the kids that have the marshmallows out in front of them and say, if you don't eat one now, you'll get many more later. And then some children are able to wait and some children can't. I feel like now we're in a generation where people really find it hard to wait. They want everything delivered to them within 24 hours. They want it in their hands. They want to be able to access clothing from anywhere, anytime. So what's happened now is that because fast fashion brands know that we want everything immediately, number one, they're giving you free delivery, they're giving you free returns. They've got these countdown clocks on their website telling you there's a new drop coming in 2 hours. This many people are looking at the garment that you're buying, looking at. So if you don't get it now, it'll be gone. They're constantly fueling and pushing that sense of immediacy to make you go, oh, I better grab it now, I better, before it's gone. It's not going anywhere. And actually, who cares if it goes anywhere, because you probably didn't need it in the first place, is the first thing. The other thing is, a big factor is in our brains, we have something called the reward center. And it's usually very helpful. It helps us to keep going, like doing boring work, and we don't want to do it because we know there's a nice goal at the end of like feeling accomplishment or getting paid for a start. But with fast fashion, what it does is it gives you a very easy hit that doesn't last. So it keeps you coming back for more. So you buy something, people give you compliments, you feel like you've got something, you've treated yourself, your brain says, oh, ding, 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 that felt good, do it again. And because it's so easily accessible these days, it's something that we can keep doing over and over again. That stimulates the brain likes it, and it becomes a habit. And the danger is that if you keep engaging the habit so much, it gets so strong that it can become an addiction, or even what, not even worse, but also it can become impulsive. And that's when people stop consciously consuming, because they're unconsciously consuming. I've seen people and know people who sat watching TV, but in their hand is their phone and they're scrolling on a fast fashion website. And I'm like, are they even aware they're doing it? And they're sat there, they've watched the show, and there's 5 items in their basket. And I'm like, when did you decide that you needed those items? And the truth is, they probably didn't. It's that because the brain tells you it feels good, it releases certain chemicals, make you feel good. The flashing lights, the buy now signs, everything is fueling this and reinforcing this buying behavior, that we're kind of at the mercy of it, because it's how our brains are wired. But it's not until, I'm probably answering too many questions right now, but it's not until you realize that that is what is happening that you can punctuate that cycle, like any addiction. The first step is recognizing that that is a unhelpful behavior. And once you can see it, then you can begin to undo it. But they're doing a good job in trying to get us caught up in that.
Right. And I would imagine that being, a long-term effect, this addiction. I wonder, are you seeing more people with that realization, like, oh, I think I'm being duped here, or like with the rise of like a Shein or Temu?
Some people, but the difficulty is some people see it, but the difficulty is you see it, but you like it. So it's like with any habit, like, I don't know, smoking or drinking, whatever it is, it's like, yes, I'm aware of it, but. So it's like, I think everybody needs to find a thing that kind of tilts the balance. Like for me, it was the poor quality and knowing the human impact. Nothing that, no amount of pleasure for me having a new item of clothing will match or justify the negative impact that can have another human being. So therefore, for me, it's not worth it. So I think for each individual person, until they find out what is their non-negotiable, or the thing that would say, yes, this will bring me short-term pleasure, but until they find that but for them, because it's different for every person, I think people will keep doing it.
Right.
It's a personal thing, I think.
I think so too. And everyone, as you hear the speakers answer questions, if you have questions, feel free to drop them in the chat as we continue. Next, I want to turn to you, Kemi. For everyone on the call, Kemi and I have met at several circular fashion events in New York, most recently at the United Nations Fashion and Lifestyle Network last week. And Kemi is always the most stylish person who enters the room, often wearing something that she's DIY'd or creating upcycled art. Kemi, to me, you are just the embodiment of accessibility to art, which like honoring it and letting it just morph around your life. And I think that is a side effect of what a lot of No New Clothes Challenge takers experience, because they're seeing things in new ways and how to use what's around them in new ways. I see that you just consistently take your creative expression and turn it into a community movement, like with Solo Market, which in the past you've hosted a month-long challenge dedicated to upcycling, DIYs, and flips. I'd love to hear more just of your thoughts on, artists being agents of equity and climate change as it relates to getting crafty with our wardrobes.
100%. Well, first, thank you. For the compliments. You're making me blush. One thing that I say often through my work with Shola Market is that artists are the forefront of social impact. Furthermore, artists are the forefront of economy. Without art, without sort of like visual identities, these sort of like, these like giants of industries would not even exist. They wouldn't be able to meet the consumer or otherwise the everyday person. So artists are inherently responsible for our ability to change this world. And that's why artists inherently are always sort of commenting on the world around them, their communities, and the things that are happening and not happening, and who is being impacted. And so for me, it was really natural sort of to build a business that was built to not only make art more accessible, but to equip everyday people with the ability to create art through that of circularity and through that of sustainable use. And that sort of the portals or the means to create art is really next door at your neighbor's house or down the street, around the corner. You might have to take a train, but the things that you need are not necessarily sitting in big box stores. And the things that you need might actually just already be in your home. And that really came from how I was raised. Ultimately, being first generation American, being West African, I often say that growing up in West Africa, when you're a young girl, your aunts or your mom come to you and they're like, you have two options. You're going to either learn how to make hair or you're going to sew. And so, and it's not only because they want to show you how to be creative and like take care of yourself, but they're giving you the tools, the skills for survival, just point blank period. That at the end of the day, so long as you have that skill set, one or both of them, you can go out into the world and make a living, and you can also continue to express yourself and express, your cultural identity, your story, where we come from, where they come from. And so art and activism, yeah, they're a reflection of each other. And I think by creating Shola Market and creating this circular economy, but really community, it's helping everyday people be able to access art and creativity with more confidence, because the art world itself is defined by, exuberance and overconsumption and bananas taped on the wall and being priced at $1 million, even though it was bought down the street from a man of color for 50 cents. So for me, at the end of the day, in my heart of hearts, I feel very privileged and very lucky for the life that I have. And the work that I do is because I know that there are women who look just like me, in this world, who are being exploited so that we can look cute on Friday nights. And that to me is just I can't makes me sick. Like
Yeah.
it literally makes me sick. Like I feel like if I've been able to give this much, if I've been able to be given so much, opportunity and access, then I have a responsibility to build the tools that will allow for, my own reflections out in the world to get free and to protect them and to disrupt those systems. And so, yeah, I feel like I get to give people art, and in turn, we get to, yeah, really change the narrative, change the stories of, the lives that came before us and the lives that are coming after us.
Beautifully said. Do you have a favorite? I mean, I'm sure it's hard to think about, but do you have a favorite wardrobe DIY or a project that you've done that you could just give us a little glimpse?
Yeah, 100%. So I would say first, I came into fashion and came into a life of fashion because, again, my mother's. My mom started teaching me how to sew when I was 3, 4 years old. She had an interior design studio, and she really had me start with just the scraps because I wasn't touching a nice fabric. And so, so she would hand me a little piece of fabric and was like, get to hand sewing. And then eventually, she taught me the machine and so on and so on. So, in high school, and another reason why she taught me how to sew is because, I'm a West African woman. I'm built as a West African woman. And growing up, there was no clothing in the store that actually fit me. So once I became a little older, my mom was like, I'm going to teach you how to sew for real because I want you to be able to always have clothes that fit you, but also have clothes that are a reflection of you. So I say first, like, I love to encourage people to kind of overcome the fear of sewing and learn just sort of like basic garment construction, whether that's starting with learning how to sew a pillow, and then maybe you move up to some drawstring pants, and then maybe you learn how to make like a t-shirt, and even that I feel like is enough, and you can kind of the world is your oyster because, and also hemming in a lot of ways kind of just opens your world up to anything. So I think the basics of sewing is like a really great jump off point to then move into like owning your wardrobe and being able to transform your wardrobe, being able to upcycle your wardrobe. And I think also as well, something that we've done through Stroller Market is that I started teaching sustainable art workshops, and our most popular one, I launched like 3 or 4 at the same time, and this particular workshop just like took off. And like I'm really itching for more time so I can do the other ones. But I teach a indigo dyeing workshop where I teach people how to take natural dye, specifically indigo, and take the wardrobe that they already have, the fabrics that they already have, natural fibers, and over dye them. So taking fabrics that are a little bit lighter than like say like a mid blue and over dye it with indigo to transform their wardrobes. And that's a really fun workshop. People love it. And I think for them, it's really about the being able to be hands-on, and it's also bringing together a little bit of science. It's bringing together like fashion, but it's also bringing together cultural heritage because elu is the Yoruba word for indigo, but it's also the Yoruba word. My dad's Nigerian. He's of the Yoruba tribe. It's also the Yoruba word for love. So in the Yoruba tribe, we paint our houses with blue. At big cultural events, we'll wear blue. All of just like naturally dyed indigo fabrics. So that workshop's a lot of fun because it brings a lot of different things together. We're doing a little kitchen science. We're doing a little fashion. We're talking about like cultural legacy. And so, yeah, those are really my 2 biggest tips. And I think just like third to that is, yeah, don't be afraid to rip and cut things up. You got to get comfortable with, um, yeah, I think at the end of the day, fashion is your armor. That if artists are the forefront of this movement, then fashion is the armor. So you have to be able to be bold. You have to be able to make mistakes and know that you can always you can always re-evolve it. So
I love that response and how you blend cultural heritage with contemporary fashion with traditional indigo dye. It's definitely such also fun way to, get nerdy, get your hands dirty, like you were saying. Thank you. Yes, yes, I love it. Next to Alysia, I want to mention you've been invited to speak and keynote at the White House, the United Nations,
Blah, blah, blah,
Google,
blah, blah. What's the question?
so many film festivals, all these events, breaking barriers for women wherever you go. What role do you think Hollywood and media can play in changing how people view consumption and clothing?
I mean, I think it would be so freaking cool if everybody decided they weren't buying things anymore. Like, we have enough of everything on the planet. The truth is, we have enough of everything, and we're not sharing well. Like, grassroots. We have enough of everything. We're not great at sharing. And there's a beautiful, loving, artistic way to change all that. Like Kemi just talked about it so deeply, eloquently. Don't you all want to be like, we all want to be Kemi. So what's the problem? We can all go find things that are made already, fabric that is made already, clothing that is made already, and play with it and express with it and make art with it and be unique with it. And I think it's back to that idea of, oh, no, 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 you have to wear this designer that then also has a socioeconomic issue that, that it's broken. It's all so broken. So in my dreamland, everyone would be like, okay, we're done making things. Let's just halt manufacturing. Like, what would happen to our climate if we actually halted manufacturing for a while and we just used what we had? And I think there is a truth that a lot of people don't want to look at. And I tend to be a very positive person and I tend to not talk about this stuff. But the way we are headed, we are not going to have a choice. Like, that's the truth of it. Y'all better get used to reusing because we're going to get to a place where it's going to feel more scarce. So let's embrace this now. Maybe we could learn something and save this actual planet and fall in love with it instead of making it a punishment. Like, that's what I'm about, is fall in love with the pleasure and the art of reuse and repurpose instead of the like, oh, I'm not allowed to buy new clothes for 3 months. I am so stoked to go into my closet, go into my friend's closet, what, like, it's so fun. It's so fun. Make it a joy. We get like, this is a privilege, as Kemi said. A lot of people don't get to choose. I mean, there are a lot of places on this planet at this moment where people are not choosing what they get to wear. So if we get to choose, let's do it deeply consciously and see it as the art that it is. As an artist, that's what I'm really interested in. So, yeah.
100%. Yeah, we need no new clothes to be shout from the rooftops. Nationwide, no new clothes. How do we get that going this year in 2025? Like 5,000 signups, what if that's 50,000? Like, let's, dream big here. Thank you. Dion, I want to ask you next. You've mentioned that clothing makes you feel like yourself, and we all relate to that very much in our community. I'd love for you to talk about how personal style influences your sense of identity and well-being.
I was thinking about what Alysia said there, but we don't share enough, and thinking about that new jumpsuit she's got, and thinking if she wants to share that. But I think what we wear is so closely linked to how we feel. It's like physically, it's the closest things to us. It's a very intimate kind of like relationship between what we wear and our bodies and how we feel. It's with us every day of our lives, in our darkest days and our happiest times. It's there with us. And I think somebody mentioned earlier in the call about the memories that are linked up within the fabrics of clothing. But I guess I'm just thinking about, you mentioned about how we use it in kind of different emotional periods of our lives. And, our lifetimes are very, very long. And human beings are not very good at kind of like expanses of time that they feel a bit untethered if they can't mark it. That's why we have clocks, why we have calendars, because humans were like, how much time have we got to go? And they can't manage just not knowing. So we divide it up into little ways of making sense for us. We make pastimes and rituals like holidays and birthdays and things like that, so we can make sense of time. But I don't know if it happened for you all in America as well, but during the pandemic, what happened was people were kind of losing it a little bit because they didn't have those normal markers of time. And things like, for example, people wearing pajamas all day, or they're like house joggers all day. And people kind of got a bit doolally about that. So what they started doing was they started getting dressed for the day, even if they weren't leaving the house, or wearing suits at home, or wearing ball gowns in the same way they would if they were going out. And the reason for that is because usually if you're getting ready for the day, you put on something and it tells your brain, I'm going to work. It's work time. So that part of your brain will turn on. In the same way, maybe when you come in the house, you kick off your shoes or you take off your bra, whatever, you say, I'm comfortable, now I'm at home. So those are markers. And that's how you use clothing as well, to kind of like be in tune with your body and your emotions and your cognitive needs and all of these things. But when we are faced with emotional challenges in life, we also use clothing in the same way. So I guess if you're going through a divorce, a breakup, maybe you've lost your job, maybe you're starting a new job, maybe you've had a health scare and your bodies have changed because of dealing with that health concern. That then what you might do, because so much in life feels out of our control, you might look for things that you can control in order to attend to those emotional needs. And something that we know we can control, I've already mentioned, is clothing. So I think during periods of change or when people are faced with like emotional challenges, they often will reach for clothing as a way to either comfort themselves and say, you know, I mean, wear this item of clothing because it reminds me of a particular person or a particular time, a person that's not with you, just to feel that connection and the comfort. Or some people sometimes will want a whole new wardrobe, hopefully not made of new clothes, no, just like repurposing their old clothes and buying pre-loved stuff. But people want to change their look often. You always see it on TVs, don't you, with the revenge bodies and the revenge wardrobes, because it's so common. And what people are doing is they're kind of saying, whatever has happened in my life that left me in a negatively emotional state, I don't want to be that person anymore. I don't want to be associated, or I don't want to be reminded of that person anymore. So a way of distancing yourself from that emotional pain is by like changing what you're wearing, or kind of like just trying to reinvent yourself in some way, or just trying to take control in some way. This thing has happened to me. If that's out of my control, what can I do? I know I can, like Kemi said, grab this clothing, cut it up, make it look different. Now I feel different in myself. There is this continuous like conversation between what we wear and how we feel. How many people have walked into a party and you felt underdressed or overdressed, and then you're like, oh my God, I haven't worn the right thing. And it really plays in your mind, and suddenly you don't feel your full self. You don't feel comfortable in that space. Nothing has changed about you. You have the same accomplishments, the same face, the same friends, you're loved by the same people, but you don't feel the same way because of we so often want to be seen and want to represent ourselves accurately. And again, if we don't feel that we are seen or represented accurately based on what we're wearing, which often speaks for us before we open our mouths, then it can feel very uncomfortable. And again, that can affect our emotional state and our well-being. So I could talk endlessly about that, but there's so many ways that it affects our well-being.
For sure, for sure. I've been thinking that I want to start like a confidence corner in my wardrobe. Like if I have an event or something, like I tend to wear this same like vintage blazer that I go back to that. So I'd love to like build those moments and those feelings in my wardrobe and have that like carry through. But thank you
A
so
lot of people do
much.
that.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd love, we have about 10 minutes left. I'd love to ask a question for the panel. What are your upcoming goals or plans for the No New Clothes Challenge over the next 90 days?
Well, I have a new plan, which is I'm really hoping to wear something of Kemi's. That's my new goal.
Well, I'm happy to help you fulfill that goal. We're going to achieve that goal. I think, one thing that's fun about, Stroller Market and the work that I do here is that I get to help people pass on projects that they didn't finish. I sort of help a lot of artists kind of like celebrate that, like, art is about picking up and putting down things and trying new things and building that skill set. And so with my like current project, here with the new museum, basically I'm building a creative reuse center. That's the future of Stroller Market, is that I want to build New York City's first um, fully public creative reuse center. And one of the projects that was passed on to me was that someone started hand weaving and with yarn and wool, and they built like a loom out of cardboard. And so I kind of put that to the side because I wanted to challenge myself to teach myself how to hand weave. Because I was like seeing it and I'm just like, oh, that's really cool, but I don't have time. I'm always, I'm working on my other projects. So I want to challenge myself to actually finish their weaving. I like literally this morning, I was like getting ready and moving all the materials for this creative reuse center that is sitting in like a reimagining of my grandmother's kitchen that I create out of like post-consumer waste and secondhand furniture. So I put that project to the side because I want to challenge myself to finish it and like make like a bag out of it because it's about like half a yard. So I'm gonna challenge myself to do that over the next 90 days. So yeah, stay tuned because I never hand woven before.
We want to see updates. Keep us posted.
I feel like mine is not quite as advanced as Kemi. I'm not at that level, but I want to get back to yeah, just like making clothes, just using my hands more, I think, even if it's kind of like just altering, like something feels too big anymore or too small, be able to alter like the waist myself. I really want to make a little top. So basically, I want to get into sewing. I'm just going to start listing all the items I want to make and adjust, but I really want to get back into sewing. I think my skills haven't gone past like just adding buttons in the last few years, but I really want to get hands-on because I feel like once you are making something with your own hands, you see how much time and effort goes into it. And I feel like you'll cherish that item even more and look after it because you know how much time it took you. And if I'm starting from scratch with my basic skills, it's going to take me a long time. So I'm going to cherish those items once they get going.
I love that goal. We're here for you every step of the way.
Thanks. Wish me luck.
Yeah, tell that to my knitted socks in the corner that I started 3 years ago, not knowing that socks are as many stitches as a sweater. Thought it would be a quick project, but no. One last and final question. I'd love to ask you guys, what advice would you offer anyone on the call or any individual that's looking to make a more conscious consumption choice that honors their personal expression?
I'm happy to answer that. I think at the end of the day, sustainable fashion gave me back myself. That through like taking back, the journey and the process of clothing itself and making it personal and making it hands-on and really interrogating my relationship to clothing, it allowed me to, yeah, better write my story in the everyday. I think especially in American or Western culture, it's really big about assimilation, and assimilation is driven by like what is hot right now, like what is on trend. But at but through like consciously engaging with clothing, consciously engaging with fashion, but furthermore art, it allowed me to walk into rooms and, be wearing something that is really, really personal, that really tells my story on my terms and not from a place of me just trying to sort of like blend in to the walls. And it also, it makes it easier for people to sort of introduce themselves because they can say like, hey, I like your shoes, or hey, I like your shirt. And it makes it easier for me to introduce myself back where I'm like, thank you. And so self-expression and seeing self-expression in each other, I think is essential for being able to start to have these conversations and be in community. So yeah, I'll leave it there. And I think it's also the Nigerian in me. One thing about Nigerians is like with fashion, you always want to be the one who has that one thing. You never want to look like the other person. So so, if you wanna be a baddie, if you wanna start, upcycling your clothing.
That is so powerful. Thank you.
I think I was thinking exactly the same as Kemi there, actually. Because I was thinking we have so many trends and these micro trends now, like mermaid core, fisherman core. This year it's siren core, and I'm like, I can't keep up. But I think as well as it like driving consumption, I feel like it's robbing people of their identity. I feel like it's coming at us so thick and fast that you haven't got a chance to say, who am I and what do I like? And who am I in clothing? Like you're before, when like I know when I was growing up, like in the 90s, you would look to your peers for kind of inspiration and thinking, am I wearing the right thing? Should I be wearing this? Do I look good? But that was a small group of people. But now with social media, young people are having to look across the globe for comparison. And that's too much. That is an onslaught. So I feel like whenever people ask me this question, I always say, firstly, like I said, slow down. And I think the first thing you want to do is look in your own wardrobe and think about what are the things in there that bring you joy. I sound like that lady from TV now, but look at things that bring you joy and the things that you feel good in, and ask yourself not just only do I feel good in them, but why? And then also look at people that you like the styles of, or think back to a time when you felt really confident in an outfit, and again ask yourself why. And then make a little Pinterest board, so then you can begin to get a sense of, okay, who am I and what is my style? Is it that I really like tailoring? Is it like I like florals? I like ditzy print? I like mask style? What is it? And I think once you have a sense of your own style identity, then you're less likely to fall for these kind of micro trends, and you're better able to like say no to this continuous call for consumption that's coming our way. That's what I think.
Yes, thank you. Alysia, do you have advice for our no new clothes challenge takers this summer?
You know, both Kemi and Dion talked about trend, and I think my biggest advice would be like, be your own trend. Like, be the change you want to see. Both be your, like, wear whatever the heck you want. I mean, I would curse if, I don't know if we're okay with that here. Like, you wear what you love. Wear what makes you feel gorgeous and amazing and sexy. I love what Kemi said about like clothing is armor. What Dion said is it is about how you feel. And so wear whatever makes you feel amazing. That will always be on trend. You know, most of my clothes I have had for over 20 years. Like, I would say when you're buying, really think about that if you're buying, if you have to buy. Um, a lot of my clothes, like my standard outfit right now that I've never been a blazer person. I've had so many blazers in my life because I've worn them in as costumes and then they gave them to me and they kind of sat in my closet. My daughter loves blazers, so she wears my blazers all the time. She's very she does debate, so blazers are everything for debate. And I recently picked up a blazer. I have friends who actually manufacture for Ralph Lauren in New York. It like really, I love them very much because they felt it was really important to have New York manufacturing, and they treat everybody who works for them with a lot of love and respect and a fair wage. So props to the Ferraras. And I've had this blazer for like 20 years, and all of a sudden I picked it up and I'm like, oh, this is so me right now. And this is something I've had for 20 years since I met them when I was a teenager. And so rediscover your own closet, like go dig in your own closet and keep on asking yourself who am I today? You know, I think that's for me, who am I today is a very powerful question. Who am I being is a very powerful question as an activist, as a human, and in fashion. Who do I want to be? It can be a costume too. Who do I, cosplay is a thing. Like cosplay your own wardrobe. Play with it. It's a game. It's all a game. And you get to make the rules of your fashion game.
I love that response. And I look at my closet the same way. Like, who do I want to be today? How do I want to feel today? How do I want to feel entering this room? I love that. I love it. I'm definitely entering this next 90 days well inspired and in great spirits. Thank you so much, Alysia, Dion, and Kemi, for speaking with us today, for sharing your feelings, your stories. We're so grateful. Thank you for being in this challenge with us all together. I hope you all sign up today. If you didn't on the call, we have the link in the chat box right now to sign up for No New Clothes. Lastly, I just want to say thank you to all of our community members. You heard a lot of updates today. We're doing really exciting things this summer on the Remake team. This is just a special thank you to all of our Remake gems who give donations every month. And it makes our Changemaker program, our resources, our new program just free for all. And you keep this work alive. And this is all possible because of you, because you're here and we're collectively doing this together. If you're interested in donating today or bringing a fundraising link to your next community event, we have a link that Allison just dropped in the chat. And with that being said, thank you. Thank you for joining us today. We'll see you next on June 26th for our Changemaker social. And then we'll see you in July for the next community call. Thanks, everyone.
Bye. Thanks all.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.